Good evening. I'm Rich Davis, aka the Velvet Joker, here with my co-host Cliff on Comics, and this is Behind the Panels. Now, few creators have touched every era of modern comics, from Marvel icons to DC mythologies, from launching Image Comics to contributing to the evolution happening at Skybound. But Eric Larsen didn't just participate in these chapters, he helped shape them. His legacy is one of conviction, longevity, and a creator who never stopped pushing forward. Tonight, we talk to the man behind Savage Dragon, Mr. Eric Larsen.
Woohoo!
Yay. Eric, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
You're quite welcome.
We are humbled to have you here tonight. And of course, I'm excited after rereading the last 5 issues of Savage Dragon. So I've been doing my homework. I'm sure it's always nice when you randomly scroll on your phone and you're like, oh, my book is number 1 on a few lists out there. How cute. Okay, so
we always want to start at the very beginning. So Eric, let's take you back. Now, your father, from what I understand, was an English professor with a deep love for comics, especially Captain Marvel adventures. How much did his collection and his enthusiasm shape your early interest in comics?
I don't know, because I was so goddamn little when I started.
Yeah.
He grew up with his comics. He was a teacher. I don't know if he taught English. He was a teacher. No, I swear. But by the time I really was aware of what was going on with him, he was teaching drama. So he was directing plays and stuff like that through a college in Washington State. And so that's kind of where my brain just kind of kicked in, was like, all right. He had all kinds of other stuff that he was doing prior to that, but he was primarily doing that. He had bought comics when he was a kid. And as he grew up, comics grew up. And then when the comics code kicked in, and he had been reading all of the EC comics by that late point. And so when the comics code kicked in, he eventually was like, I guess I'm out, because they're not making comics for me anymore. EC went out of business, and that's when he stopped buying comics. And that was it. So we grew up, and it's really too young. He brought out those comics and said, hey, kids, look at this. And we kind of read and damaged a lot of what would be super expensive comics later on. He used to kind of delight in going into comic stores and saying, see that on the wall? I used to have that in better condition. It's like, well, sorry, Dad, but my brother Carl woke up with that one wrapped around his face because he'd been reading it. But I started drawing my own comics as a real little tyke, and just absorbed everything that I could get my hands on real early on, and just kept on going with it. Did that answer the question at all? I don't even know. But I started drawing my own comics like 4th grade, so I was like really I just loved it, and was like, I'm making up my own characters and I'm drawing, and I was just a constant just doing that. I was just making comics forever.
At that time, were they all original characters, or were you mimicking characters that you'd seen out there, or a combination thereof?
I was mostly making up my own guys. Yeah. The dragon was super early on, and occasionally I would have guest stars show up. So it would be like, oh, Dragon's fighting Superman. How cool is that? But they weren't. I didn't use those other guys on a regular basis. It was pretty much my own characters.
I'm very much admiring your references to a lot of Golden Age territory, and like obviously your father's collection, because like you like to use the original Daredevil. You have Mighty Man, who is this amazing special spin on what would be, the Fawcett Captain Marvel, right? You have
to a degree.
To a degree, the secret identity portion you've had lots of fun with, and I've been very impressed.
So yeah, I mean it's all in the DNA, and I kind of, when I did Dragon, I was like, let's have him be part of a universe which already exists and was well underway.
Yes, and you have the Liberty League, which is just like all the things. It's all the things.
Yeah.
You become the Liberty League.
Like, let's just pretend that this universe has been going around forever. And also, I kind of, in my head, I was thinking, let's set this in the universe where Marvel and DC characters cross over all the time. Let's just pretend that's our universe. So all this other stuff out there exists, and all the other characters from any other company ever exist at the same time. So if they show up, we don't have to have this long-winded explanation as to how does this all work and how does this all work together.
That brings me to okay, so we have a list, and I'm already going to hell in a handbasket. You recently used the Mouse of the House of Mouse, the black and white edition. Are you just having fun playing with him as that stuff is entering the public domain, or is it just like you just have fun using him because of parody? Like, but you've really brought him in with an edge most recently.
Well, I kind of was bringing him in. I mean, if you watch those old Mickey Mouse cartoons back in the day, he was pursuing Minnie in a way which was not exactly family friendly. Like he was for, I mean, he was pretty hardcore back in the day, and they weren't really thinking, hey, this guy's going to be our lovely mascot. At that point, they were just kind of going, here's our dude, and he's kind of a lech. And then, so when he entered the public domain, I'm sitting there going, okay, well, I'm going to play with the cards I've been dealt here, and have him just kind of be what he is. And then as time's gone on, like originally he didn't have gloves on, and then later on I was like, all right, now the gloves are PD, let's give him gloves. So as the different aspects enter the public domain, I'll keep updating him. So, but I'm just having some fun with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think of what is it? Plane Crazy, right? That's an early Mickey Minnie short, I think. He's a bit much. He's a bit much.
Yeah, it is something. Where he's just like, okay.
And then one of those called Gallopin' Gaucho, I think, right? Like that one's rough.
Years later, I mean, you read the old Floyd, however you pronounce his last name, Gottfredson, comic strip, and those things were pretty crazy too, really. And it was only years later that when they decided, let's make this guy a mascot, that he became pretty friendly and lost a lot of his really feisty edge that he had early on, because early on he was quite the character, and for good or bad. And then as time went on, they're like, all right, maybe we ought to tone this down a bit.
But from the look on your face, clearly you're having fun with it.
Yeah. I'm just screwing around.
I mean, I'm all the happier for you. Like I really believe in people who really are giving and enjoying like the work, and like I don't know, I'm totally into celebrating that, and like your work has always had something that it's saying, right? And I really kind of enjoy that, and I dig that, and it's great because I mean, I'm not a saint here. I fall off the beaten path, and then like this week I got all excited. I was like, oh, let me read the last few issues of Savage Dragon to get caught up. And here I was fully immersed in what, you focus on the younger characters, they're battling against ice, all these things that I was like, ooh, like I just got completely immersed in it again. And I think it's great.
Well, I kind of also am just a fan of comics in the big picture, sort of all over the place. So I love manga. When I was immersed in manga real early on, when it wasn't being translated into English, I was just like, I at one point subscribed to a bunch of comics through a Japanese bookstore in Seattle, and they were just sending me these big boxes of stuff, and they were pushing me out of my little apartment. And then I was into all the underground stuff that was coming out, and Robert Crumb and Gilbert Shelton and some of the other guys. And there's just a whole variety of different comics that I've kind of absorbed, some foreign, some domestic, kind of all over the place. And I'm just trying to take all these varying influences and just pop them all into one thing and see what I can make of that.
At a young age, you were entrepreneurial already. You self-published a graphic fantasy at the age of 19.
Yeah. Now my dad had a printing press, so by that point he was teaching workshops, and he had a bunch of material that he wanted printed up for those workshops. So he got this printing press, and I essentially became his press man. And at some point, I thought I could print up my own comics with this stuff. But that came about because I had done this dragon story or Savage Dragon story, whatever, and with intention of trying to get Charlton Comics to publish it. So I'd drawn up the story and submitted it to them. They had this book called Charlton Bullseye, which didn't pay any money at all, but you got to completely retain your ownership and copyright and all that stuff. It's like, I want to get this guy into print. So I had contacted them and submitted this story to them. And they're like, yeah, this, even paying nobody money at all, this book didn't sell well enough that it can continue. So I had this story that was sitting there done, and a couple other aspiring comic book friends, and I just sort of came together and said, well, there's this convention coming up. Let's see if we can get a comic out in time for this comic book convention. So we pooled our resources, and I ended up inking both of their stories because it just needed to speed up the process. And I was a kid, 19, and I wasn't working or anything, so I could kind of devote my time to pursuing making comics, still living at home and stuff like that.
I love that. All right, I want to take a question from the chat. This is a fun one too.
All right.
I'm wondering what's the focus of Eric's collection on the shelf behind him.
That is really just Misk comics back there. That's pretty much just whatever has come out since 1991.
And what about the stuff on behind you on your right? It's facing us, or behind you on your left? It's facing us.
I don't know which.
It's on a rack.
It's a rack. It's a rack, and I can see the covers.
That there, I've got in the back. I've got a DC Comics rack, and it's just the best in reading comics, and it's real DC. It's got the DC bullet on it, all that good stuff. And then over here off camera, can I even pan? I don't know if I can.
Yeah, nice. Look at that.
I've got a marble rack over there, and then I've got this is the comics read one today rack full of completely sun drenched Savage Dragon on the spinner rack.
That's great, though. That's great.
They're all just fading and dying, but it's like, whatever. I'm just looking at them now going, man, those things have almost no red in them at this point. They've just taken so much weather.
All right, I have a question from my buddy.
These are Golden Age comics here.
Mm-hmm.
So, Golden?
This is all Golden Age comics, and there's a pile that I don't know how many of those I've got, but there's a bunch. There's good stuff in there. And then way back up there, that's original art.
Wow.
Amazing.
There's heaps back there.
Amazing.
There's a lot of it.
Wow. Is that all your original art or all yours plus the collection?
Savage Dragon.
Wow.
Woo! All right.
Most part. There's a little bit of other stuff, a little bit of Spider-Man or whatever.
All right.
So.
I got 2 follow-up questions from the same comic book crowd. This is my friend Rob. Eric is a collector. Awesome. What is his favorite thing he picked up this year, and what's he looking for, and what's he read? That's a lot of questions, Rob, but okay.
That's way too much. What am I? I don't know what I picked up last year. This year, I go to the comic store every week. I'm more of a art guy than a writing guy, so there's not much of anything that I'm sitting there going, I can't wait to read this right now. I get every Image comic that's published sent to me, so I get that stuff and read more of that than much of the other stuff. But I still I got to keep up on Spider-Man and kind of keeping up on the Hulk a little bit, and then just depends on the books. Sometimes something will catch my eye, and I'll be like, "Oh, it's Absolute Catwoman or whatever the hell they're calling those things. Let's give that a gander or whatever." And I really just graze. At this point, I'm not super hardcore. I have to have every issue of everything. I'd rather have a curated collection such as this, So I'll get an issue of this just because it caught my eye. There's a fill-in issue on this, and so I'll follow various artists. If Rick Leonardi's drawing something, I'll buy that. If Chris Pacello's drawing something, I'll buy that. Various artists, I'll get that. I'll get that.
Look at that. Rob is very impressed with your collection, and Rob has a savage, pun intended, collection of his own. So this is a big compliment.
It's kind of all over the place. There's tons. I mean, all my own stuff of Savage Dragon and stuff, that's pretty much in the basement because I've got back issues to I mean, just tons and tons of long boxes full of back issues down there.
Okay, Pops has a question that I think I know the answer to. You drew Cletus Cassidy first. You didn't draw him as Carnage first, right? If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, Carnage didn't appear until I was off the book and Mark Bagley had taken over.
Right.
But
you did come back and draw him later, if I remember correctly.
No, I never drew.
You've never drawn Carnage?
No.
Oh my God! There's a whole thing to get Marvel to pay you to do.
Well, I mean, people have had me do commissions with him in it, so I shouldn't say I've never drawn him. I've never drawn him for Marvel officially. So.
Okay, Matt likes comics. My friend in Canada. I'm a big fan of The Outsiders. Which was your favorite character to draw from them?
Is his name Geo?
Geoforce, yes.
Geoforce. Probably the one I most like drawing from.
I would have guessed you would have enjoyed
huge dudes. So it's like I draw huge dudes.
I thought you would have said Element Man and Metamorpho. I don't know why. I feel like that would have been like
he was barely in it. He died in the first or one of the early stories I did. I guess I did 2.5 issues, and he died in one of them. So he wasn't in the last issue at all. And the last issue was kind of the most fun issue for me because it didn't have the Silent Knights in it or whatever the hell those guys were called, the Atomic Knights. It was like, yeah, those guys showed up, and I was like, oh my god, this is not what I want to do at all. But then the last, and I was inking myself and not knowing how to ink. So that was a real like, what the hell am I doing here? But then the last issue, I just penciled it and Mark Farmer inked it. So that was just like, oh, this is great. I penciled it and send it away. And I don't have to worry about that anymore. So that part was a lot of fun. It was actually kind of a fun book to do because the writer, and he probably is not super happy that I did this, but he had written it full script. But it seemed as though, as a writer writing it full script, that he just kind of looked at the number of panels and divided it by 5 and called that a script, because it really was pretty much every page was 5 to 6 panels for the entire issue. And so what I sort of said to the editor was, let me push these panels around. They're all going to be in the same order. All the dialogue's going to work. This will all make perfect sense. But let me take these pages or panels where there's a lot of people talking and just cram those onto one page so that I can open this up for when the big reveal of the bad guys shows up or something else. If there's a bigger event, let me give that a presence and space that it deserves, rather than just every page is a 6-panel grid. Let's just keep this going. And I don't think the writer was super taken that I messed with his pacing or whatever, but it's like, man, I just want to be able to draw some big cool stuff when need be, and he's got important moments in there, and I'd like to give them the space and gravity that I thought they deserved. But I was young and headstrong and kind of did whatever the hell I wanted to,
And so from one DC team from another, from the Outsiders, let's talk about your Doom Patrol run with Paul Kupperberg, which has this kind of wild kinetic energy. How did the two of you bounce off each other creatively to make that happen?
He worked plot style, so it wasn't full script. So I could kind of had room to play around with it a little bit. And as he asked really early on, hey, is there any characters you want to introduce? And so I introduced a character called Shrapnel as a villain, who I had created and wanted to use in DN Agents when I had done that book. But it's just, he didn't, Mark said, Mark Evanier on that book was like, well, we can make him work if it's a suit. And I was like, no. It's got to be a real dude. It can't be a suit. So I kind of had that guy for whatever reason. I was really eager to get him into print. So with Kupperberg said, we can use him here. It's like, okay, great, awesome. Let's use him immediately. And then as time went on, it was not so much calling each other up and bouncing ideas off of each other as him sending a plot and me going off-road when I would get it. And I fully acknowledge that I should not have been doing that. There's really no place to be doing that. But I would call up the editor and be like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Can I change it to this or this? And he's like, do what you want, man. And so it really is a way too young guy in his early 20s. I was just kind of replotting stories that I had no business replotting just because it didn't work for me. And they just kind of let me do it. And then I remember calling up the editor and saying, well, I was leaving the book to go and do something else at Marvel. And I said, well, this is my last issue, so I'm going to kind of going to stick with his plot because it's got to continue into the next issue. And the editor said, "Why start now?" It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, they just kind of, I don't know why I was given as much freedom as I was given, but God bless them, you know, it worked out really nicely for me.
I guess they believed in you.
Something happened. I don't know why, but I thought it worked out all right. I got to draw some cool characters. I got to do some cool stories. As that book progressed, I got a little more confident with my style and more consistent as things went. So, you know, it all worked.
Nice. Now,
okay, I want you to know I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 chat questions already stacked up on the side. I just want you to know.
All right. Well, they're busy. They love the man. They want to talk to him. Now, also at DC, you once had a Lobo miniseries in development that never made it to print. Do you remember your vision for Lobo at that moment?
It was not my vision. It was, I did 2 pages of a book called Lobo's Greatest Hits. So if you wanted to ever see, they had done a collection that just took a bunch of different appearances of Lobo and put them in one book, and they had a framing sequence. And since I was going to be doing this mini-series, but Keith Giffen plotted it, that mini-series, and it was to be called, ended up being Lobo Infanticide. And he ended up drawing it himself. Oh. And he had sent me the plot for, I think, 1 or 2 issues of it. And then this image thing came about, and I had to bail on it. He ended up drawing it himself and kind of ignoring the plot that he had started, and just went off road with that and did something somewhat different from what he had initially laid out. Which, I mean, it ended up working out real well for him, and you know, I apologize profusely for not doing it, but you know, at that point I was doing my own character at my own company, and that made more sense.
Oh, absolutely. And Keith was kind of also one of those guys that didn't really listen to anyone and kind of did his own thing as well.
Yeah, there's a few of us. Very bad.
Now, let's switch over to Marvel. Now, your first arc on Amazing Spider-Man was Return of the Sinister Six, and it immediately showed how bold your storytelling could be. What excited you most about tackling that lineup of villains?
All right. Let me back up a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
I did a fill-in issue on Spider-Man really early on, while I was doing the DNA agents. So they just needed a warm body, and I was eager, looking for work. So before I even did the Doom Patrol, I did this one crappy fill-in on Amazing Spider-Man that had Daredevil in a fat suit dressed up as Kingpin. And it was just the dumbest thing ever. But that was my introduction to Spider-Man and Jim Salicrup. And that was something. I should have pursued that, but didn't. I went from Doom Patrol to the Punisher, and I did 5 issues of that, and that was all I could take. And then from that, I went to Marvel Comics Presents and did an Excalibur serial. So that was an 8-part story with all the characters from Excalibur. Terry Austin inked it, beautiful. And then they needed a fill-in on Spider-Man while Todd was doing the book. So in one of the chapters of what's it called? The Assassination something. I did one of the chapters in that had Captain America in it and Sabretooth. And so that was just me trying my best to look like Todd McFarlane. So when they collected this 6-part story, that my chapter didn't look completely out of place. But at that point, the editor was looking for somebody to do Spider-Man, and he was trying out a number of different artists. I think Dave Ross did an issue that they slotted into one of the other books eventually. I know Colleen Doran did an issue of Spider-Man. I did another one, and then they did end up giving me the book. And at that point, it was the Cosmic Spider-Man story. So that was my first regular one. Is Spider-Man became one with Captain Universe and had cosmic powers for one issue. And then after that, there was a 2-parter with the Punisher, just to kind of go, hey, remember this artist used to do the Punisher? Well, here he is showing up in Spider-Man. So, and then from that, I mean, we just kind of ran through all of the stories. Definitely the Sinister Six was a lot of fun, because who doesn't love all those characters? And being able to draw all of them in one huge story was awesome. And I liked updating Dr. Octopus so he wasn't just a fat guy in tights. So it's like, let's put him in a suit and have him actually look somewhat presentable.
And look how far that has gone with him. He even got to be a superior Spider-Man.
Well, that was kind of a thing where I shared a studio with a couple different artists, and one of them was a guy named Pete McDonald, and Pete was doing commercial art, and one of the things he was doing is, I don't know if you remember color forms at all.
Yeah.
Sure. They had these kind of rubbery figures that you could put on a background and whatever. During that time, the Dick Tracy movie came out, the Warren Beatty Dick Tracy one. So he had all these pictures of all these Dick Tracy villains for, the movie. And he was supposed to do color forms of those. So I had all these drawings of guys in suits, and that's where Dr. Octopus in a suit kind of sprang from all the Dick Tracy movie and all those things.
I'm drawn to men in suits as well, but I feel like it's a very different thing. Rich, do you mind if I play catch up with the chat?
Let me just throw one more in there, since we were just talking about Spider-Man. Now, you were recently invited to draw a Spider-Man anniversary cover, and the look felt different from your typical classic style. What was it like returning to Spidey for such a milestone, and what inspired the direction that you took?
It's always fun to draw Spider-Man. I've enjoyed it. And recently, when they've had me do different covers for stuff, I've tried to just take different approaches depending on what it's for. There was a Spider-Man Punisher cover that I recently did that was supposed to take place around the first time that the Punisher showed up in the Spider-Man book. And on that one, I kind of was trying to do a John Romita, because it's like, well, it's set then. Spider-Man kind of looked like this then, so let's do that. And then I had done a story for Venom, Black, White, and Blood that had Spider-Man in it. And on that one, I was like, let me try and do a Ditko Spider-Man, because I hadn't really tried to ape anybody when I was doing the book on a regular basis. So I thought, I want to do a Ditko Spider-Man / Peter Parker and try my best to do a Ramita Mary Jane in that story. And it was I don't know, I pulled off either of them, but it was kind of fun to try and do that. And on this, because it was a celebration of Spider-Man and not a celebration of me, I thought, you know what, let me try and do more of your classic old school Steve Ditko Spider-Man instead of, hey, let's celebrate my era and put my version of Spider-Man on there. So it's like, I'm still going to have the way I was drawing the webs with, have some of that spinning around. So it's like, all right, for those people who love the webs, look, I can still do that crap. And there's different tells in there that say, okay, I did it, but I did kind of want his mask to look more like the classic Ditko Spider-Man and less like, this is the way I draw it. So I kind of think like Spider-Man ought to have like a few different costumes that he made at different times, and some, he can pull one on and be, oh, this mask looks a little off, just because he's kind of shitty at making masks and stuff, so you can't quite keep it consistent. So each one looks a little bit different from the other one. That's my own internal thought process. So occasionally, if I was doing the book on a regular basis, I'd probably play with that more and just be like, okay, I'm going to do an issue where he's pulls on his mask and it's the Ramita mask. Have him run around as Ramita Spider-Man for an issue, and then do the Ditko one. And look, I'm wearing the Todd McFarlane costume. Just play with it, have some fun with it.
Absolutely. Cliff, are we going to let them off the chain, the live fans out there?
There are I'm going to try and go with the easiest questions first. Like I'm going to go like with the bite-sized ones, and we're going to graduate to the not so bite-sized one. So an easy one here is, will Mickey return to Savage Dragon? That was hilarious.
Yes.
Okay. Next one. Omnibo. Sorry I'm late. Love you, Cliff. Sorry I'm late, Mr. Larsen. I have purchased the ultimate collections of Savage Dragon 1 through 3. When can we expect the anticipated 4th release?
I don't know.
Is that a you decision or a specific department image decision?
The problem is there's always a bunch of stuff that I need to do to it in order for it to come out. So there's always sketchbook stuff that needs to be in the back, and then I've been formatting like the first page and the spread that goes on the end papers and all this other kind of crap. And when it comes down to it, I'd rather make the next issue my comic, the next issue of Savage Dragon, rather than let's spend a week assembling all this stuff so that I can do everything that needs to be done. So I've been prioritizing the regular book, and that's why it's running so late.
I want you to know that is beautiful and painful. So Bo is in Australia. My friend Kyle is in Argentina. They only know your work through collected editions because of cost and everything. So them hearing that you're not really finishing up volume 4 is killing them and all their friends on the inside. So no pressure, but remember, every time you put it off, all these international folks are sitting back dying.
What I really need to do is to get somebody else to do all that stuff, so I don't have to do any of that stuff. If that could just be running on its own without me having to do anything, those would be coming out like clockwork. But because there's stuff in the back that people expect there to be, and I have to go through boxes and find all the pieces.
I mean, you don't have to do it all. I mean, like, I'm sure Bo would be happy. He doesn't need every single sketch. Just whatever you can find, he'll be happy.
I know.
Just collect the
story.
story.
It's the finding part. It's I haven't organized my life so that everything is in the order in which it was drawn, and also the sketches fall off really severely once the book was up and running and coming out on a regular basis, because I didn't have to figure out what Dragon's Fin looked like anymore, or I didn't have to figure out what the various villains were going to be. And in many cases, a lot of those villains have were designed on the page in which they first appeared anyway. So, I kind of feel like, I would love there to be all sorts of cool stuff in the back of these books to really show you what was going on. But in a lot of cases, there wasn't that much that was happening at that point.
All right. Someone just asked a question about comic. Yes, please do it for the international. Comic Toby just asked about Savage Dragon, the movie. Now, before you say anything, I want you to know that I have a running bet with a friend of mine that I'm going to see a Savage Dragon live action movie before I see a Spawn live action movie. So
good luck to you both.
Good luck. Exactly. Good luck to us both. Oh, but never say never, right?
Never say never. I'm not. It's kind of a mess, honestly. Universal Studios kind of has their hooks in it a little bit, because when we did the cartoon, they had sort of this right of first refusal kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So what's happened is anybody else who's wanted to do anything, they're like, so we could get this whole thing in motion, and then Universal could step in and said, I'll do that, and then it all falls apart. Mm. So Universal isn't sitting there going, we want to do it, but they're kind of dick blocking everybody else. So it's been a source of frustration, to say.
I can see that. I was under the impression right of first refusal was different. Now it sounds much worse than what I thought it was. I thought right of first refusal was like, oh man, this sounds cool. So you know what? We're not refusing. We get to go. We're going to do it. And then they actually try to do it. But it sounds like they don't try to do it.
It's not been that nice.
Okay. On to, all right. We're clearing them out. This one's fun and simple. All right. Eric, what do you think of the absolute Batman phenomenon? For lack of better words.
I haven't read any of it. It just, I got the first issue and was kind of like, okay. That's where it ended with me. So, I mean, more power to them. I'm glad they're having, more people reading comics is always good. I kind of wish in a way that they would do something where if they're going to do a new universe and start this thing up, I kind of wish at the same time they would go, all right, here's what we're going to do with our regular line. We're going to wind this down. And the way that we're going to wind this down is we're going to suddenly set the regular universe in real time. We're going to let all these characters age. We're going to start killing off people left and right. We're going to make the regular universe exciting while we introduce this new universe, so that you can be like, we'll both be competing, trying to out excite each other.
They almost did what you're talking about. but because they're corporate America, no one's aging, okay? So aging is out, but fresh, exciting stories is in. I'm really loving Deadman. I'm enjoying Zatanna. I'm loving Firestorm. I'm really loving that they're adding some new flavor, but no one's dying, right? Like Superman ain't dead. Superman's just missing, okay? So we got that stuff going on, I'm not even going to get into it. I am having a good time with it, but, it's never going to be I don't think it's ever going to be what you described, so long as a corporate juggernaut owns them. Okay, I got the two hard questions lined up. Okay? All right. So, the first hard one. Even though Todd created Venom, Eric perfected his look. ASM 346 was how Venom was meant to look, meaning that you added the spittle, the drool, the tongue, which, by the way, that tongue is homoerotic. And I don't know if you meant that or not, but I just want you to know that for my entire life, all I can think about is what Venom is trying to do to Peter.
All right. Well,
Just
okay.
now,
I think
mind
that's
you,
more than you think,
those
but-
are only my thoughts. This is a two-part conversation piece here from Chris. It is this. We also had another question that was, and you answered part of it earlier. It was, what was it like just jumping in and taking over after Todd? And you did comment about trying to maintain some of Todd's look. Because you knew when it would go to trades.
Venom, I noticed that when Venom first appeared, he was very subdued. And then when Venom second appeared, he was a little more extreme. His teeth had gotten sharper. His jaw was gotten more unhinged. So it's like, all right, he keeps upping the ante every time this character appears. They had done a trade paperback of Spider-Man versus Venom, and Todd did a new cover to it, and I didn't buy it because I had the regular comics anyway, but I saw the cover and I was like, oh, Todd's giving him a tongue now, was my mental impression of that cover. Was his mouth was open, he's giving him a tongue now, I'm going to give him an even bigger tongue. And so for a longest time, I was crediting Todd with, oh, Todd introduced the tongue. And it wasn't until years later, and I saw that book again on the internet, that I noticed, oh, Todd he just had a tongue. He didn't do anything with it. It just was a regular human being sized, red dot that was in the back of his mouth.
I mean, the cover you're describing.
I didn't realize that I was the guy who gave him that crazy thing.
You gave him the crazy tongue. That's what's important. And I love it. And people have been putting their own special spin on it.
It's people seem to either love it or think it's the dumbest thing ever. So
I love it.
It's really extremes because there are those people who are just like, yeah, he just looks like a dog with his tongue hanging out, through the car window. He looks idiotic. That's, and so there's those guys, and then the other guys going, oh, that is wicked. So it's like, all right, kick aside.
All right, this is the last of the tougher questions before we get into Maxine Bones the Multiverse. From your graphic fantasy and Megaton days in the early 80s, what's the biggest difference you see in the industry as opposed to today, aside from smartphones and electronics?
I mean, and the big move was when people started doing fuller color, and that was sort of started with Steve Oliff, who was doing the computer color on Legends of the Dark Knight. And when we jumped over and started doing the image stuff, that was something we wanted to do early on, was let's get Steve and have him work his magic. And so Todd hired Steve on Spawn. And then it was like, okay, we're going to do better paper, because that was something that the regular comics were on newsprint, and the colors kind of lined up some of the time. But it's like, okay, so we can the artists are in charge here. We're going to do better color. We're going to do better paper. We're just going to have this be a stepped up version of comics. And that was the biggest physical change to comics in forever, really. Because prior to that, it was pretty much newsprint, 4-color, 25, 50, 100. And then suddenly it's like, oh, we can do anything. And that became a big part of it. And then all the companies, Marvel and DC, scrambled to catch up. And there were some pretty ugly comics there for a little while. Well, everybody tried to figure out how to do this stuff. And eventually, books look pretty good now.
I mean, they're looking better all the time. Okay, I think I've caught us up with the chat. Rich, you may resume. You may resume at the helm, sir.
Really.
Thank you. So everyone always wants to know how Image got started, and Eric's done a million of those. So I have my own variation that's not exactly that. So before
Yeah,
before
there's
Image,
the version that I was told. the problem is I didn't know that we were supposed to take notes on how this all came together, because there was a dinner that me, Rob Liefeld, and Dave Olbrich, and Jim Valentino had. We all went out to dinner, and Rob enthusiastically asked Dave, "Hey, can I do a comic with you guys? Would you publish something of mine?" And Dave was like, "Sure, I'd publish a book by you. I'd publish a book by any of you guys. I mean, it'd be crazy not to." And that kind of became, Rob kept wanting to go, how come everybody doesn't do an X book? How come DC doesn't do an X book? They can't own the letter X. Let's just do X books everywhere. This would be awesome. So he at one point had approached DC about doing a book for them. He was going to revamp the Teen Titans, and then Rob's kind of all over the place, but he just wanted to see if I've got something here that's successful. If I went and did something over there, can I take the audience that really loves this with me over here? So, X-Force is successful. Would Teen Titans be successful? Would a book over at Malibu, would that work? And so they took out an ad in the Comics Buyer's Guide that was called Exterminators, and it had a bunch of characters that looked like Rob Liefeld characters just running at you, and Marvel flipped out. They were like threatening to sue and all this stuff. They're saying, "Oh, this looks too much like Cable, and it looks too much like all the stuff you're doing over here." And that was kind of the worst reaction they could have had, because we kind of got this sense of, oh, there's blood in the water. These guys are scared shitless that we're gonna do something. And so at that point we kind of were like, all right, maybe there is something here. They certainly think that we could be successful. Why don't we try this out? And then we started talking on that, and then Todd got wind of that because of the Buyer's Guide thing, and he's like, why didn't you tell me you guys were thinking about doing this? I'd do a book. And so then we got from Todd came on, and then once Todd was on board, he became an active recruiter of trying to just get other creators. So it's like, we got to get Marvel's Golden Boy. We got to get Jim Lee. So he thought, if we got Rob, Todd, and Jim, we got it. And then Mark Silvestri was there, and I was like, there we go, one more. And then Jim had his buddy Wills. So suddenly it was a group of guys, and off we went. Malibu said they'd publish it, so we went with them for the first little while and kind of learned the ropes. And at that point, it was like, we don't really need you guys anymore, and so we went off and did our own thing.
I want to just show this really quick, because I think we are talking. I want to know, we're talking about this bad boy, right? This kicked it off.
Yeah, this Executioners. All right, not Exterminators.
Rebel mutants from the future come to destroy their past. Catch a glimpse of them in the limited edition print available now exclusively from Image Comics.
There you go. So that's what flipped them out, and then from there, it's like, all right. And Rob did eventually introduce those characters, and he just called them something else, and they didn't care at that point. It's like, oh, if they're called the Berserkers, we don't care. Yeah, this was super early when we were with. Yeah, this is when Megaton days. Yeah, that was the very first stuff that I did. Gary Carlson is the publisher of that stuff. Gary did a book called Megaton, and he just wanted to get a bunch of different do his own superhero thing on his own. Put out an anthology book. He had bought a bunch of fanzines, and one of them was Graphic Fantasy, which I had self-published, and so we came up with a character called Vanguard together, and that was that. And at one point, he was going to expand and wanted to get Rob to do Youngblood there, and didn't quite come together. He went to doing color books, and the industry at that point had kind of moved on, and the black and white boom kind of was over, and so he kind of imploded on himself. But Rob had created some characters then, and then he took his characters that were going to be in Team Titans, and he just renamed those characters, and Speedy became Shaft, and Harlequin became Vogue, and there was somebody from Blocks Galaxy, who became Bedrock and later Bad Rock. Mm-hmm. But all the members of that team, you can just go, oh, this is this guy.
I had those feelings. All right, this was from my friend Chris, the comic vet. He's in Ontario, not too far out of Toronto. Where did the original idea of having Malcolm Dragon move to Toronto and Savage Dragon come from?
Mostly it was me trying to avoid American politics when things got really, really shitty. So it's like, I don't want to have to deal with this son of a bitch all the time. So let me just take my characters and move them, get the hell out of Dodge, so I don't have to concentrate on this or even focus on it at all. So I just did my one issue where he's kicking everybody out of the country, and Malcolm just got to be part of that, and out he went. So it's like, it made the most sense for him to be in an English-speaking country, and Canada's right there. You could just essentially just drive there, and we're done. And it was kind of the closest, biggest city, roughly the same size as Chicago, and just did a little bit of research on what goes on there, and it was kind of a fun time to do the book, having it set there. Fans were super cool about it in that they would go, well, here's a map of Toronto, and here's a bunch of places where he could conceivably go, and there's the names of all this. And one guy sent me a super extensive map, and he had all these different places, all like, let me tell you about this district, let me tell you about that one, let me tell you about this area over here. And he really just kind of walked me through all the different parts of the city. And then when it got to using certain locations, I would contact people on Twitter or whatever and go, I got Malcolm's going to be going into this bar here. Can anybody go get me some interior shots? Off they go and send me DM me a bunch of interior shots. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So
very cool.
It was kind of a fun time to be doing the book.
I love that. Because, you know, I used to, when I was younger reading Marvel Comics, I'm like, oh man, I'm like freaking Ghost Rider is in Fishkill. This shit don't look like Fishkill. Spider-Man's chasing a guy for his backpack to Poughkeepsie. Ain't nothing here look like Poughkeepsie. I was like, come on. And then when we had the internet, I'm like, we have the internet, guys. So like to know that people,
it's really tough to do that in comics. It's just you start doing real location stuff, and it's just like I can't draw this like the real place all the time because it's too time consuming. I can't go out there and do photo shoots every time I need to set something up, and also just in basic stuff like Dragon right now is set in San Francisco, and 99 times out of 100 I'm just kind of going by my memory of, well, it kind of feels like this without going out there and taking
I just
photos.
ask for a landmark every once in a while just to remind me where I'm supposed to be. You know how it is.
And that's kind of what we'll do is just kind of go, okay, well, here's, if it's important, we'll do that. But if it's not important, Jesus Christ, give me a break, man.
You know us comic fans, you know we're relentless. You know?
Yeah, well, but the thing is, it's really difficult when you're dealing with real things because, like, you know, even looking at this background behind me, there's, you know, a bunch of boxes and there's a bunch of comics over here and stuff like that. To draw that, you got to put a black holding line around every single thing. And there's so many individual things in everything that it's like, oh, that door, there's you know 5 panels on that door, and then there's an edge to everything on that door, and then there's a doorknob on that door, and then you look at the sides and you go, oh, there's actually probably like 6 or 7 vertical lines that are going around that door. It's like that door is a complicated thing. And I've got stacks and stacks of comics and all this other crap. If I'm trying to draw this to look like what it really looks like, I physically can't do it because there's just not enough space to include every one of those lines. There's just too many lines that would have to be in there, and I can't get them.
I'm a simple bitch. Just draw up the comic book boxes in the background, and I'm like, I got the gist. I'm good.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying is you kind of have to go. I kind of have to give you the gist of this. I can't give you a tree with every leaf that's on it because it's too much. And you start getting into locations, and I was like, I had one a few issues back where I'm like, okay, I want to be where the cable car run is, and I want him to see like something a couple blocks away, like, oh, there's a big crowd down there, down the hill, a couple blocks away. And that's impossible to draw because a couple blocks, when you go and take a photo, by the time you get to where the crowd would be, they're so tiny, you can't really see that. You can see it with your naked eye because your naked eye, you will focus all of your attention on that tiny little thing. If you're drawing a panel, you can't do that. So it just became, how I want this to be accurate, and yet there's no possible way I can make this remotely accurate. So that was a waste of time. But I did go out and several times went out and be like, I'm going to take a bunch of photos, and when it came down to it, it's like, all right, this isn't going to work.
Listen, I love it. I'm here for it.
Now, Eric, you're in a rare position where you're both Image's CFO or COO and a full-time creator. What does that balance actually look like on a day-to-day basis?
On a day-to-day basis, I just draw and write comic books. Because of the structure of us as a company, we needed somebody in every one of those positions. So we're kind of honorary members of that thing. It's something really important comes up and we need to get together and vote on stuff, that does happen on occasion. But on a day-to-day basis, being CFO doesn't mean diddly squat.
Okay, so you're more of an overseeing type board at this point?
Yeah, and even that, it's mostly the publisher just will decide what books we're publishing. And
okay,
if there's something really outstanding, where it's like, okay, we're thinking about changing distributor from this one to this one. Here are the good points of this, and here are the good points of that. Let's weigh the different options. Those will be phone meetings where we'll chew the fat and kind of decide where to go. But if some random guy wants to do a book over an image, that's usually we'll funnel those people towards Eric Stevenson, and he'll make those decisions. And every now and then I'll force somebody down his throat, but for the most part, I don't. It's just that's your call, buddy.
okay. And my last sort of image founders question is going to be Robert Kirkman joined you guys in 2008. It's the first partner you guys took on, and then he started his Skybound imprint in 2010 alongside your legacy studios that already existed, like Top Cow and Shadowline. And in just 15 years, they've gone from Invincible to the Energon universe to the ROM blind bag frenzy that just happened. From your vantage point, how has Skybound become such a powerhouse inside of Image Comics?
From my vantage point, he has a bunch of money that he wants to play with and is willing to do it, and he can just kind of do that. If I had decided that I wanted to do that, I could certainly do that myself. But I just want to make comics, man. And I don't have the love for a lot of the stuff that he has this love for. He loves the G.I. Joe stuff and loves the Transformers and grew up on all that stuff. And I was an adult when that stuff was coming out, and I didn't watch any of it or really care about it one way or the other. So more power to him if he wants to do that. By all means, go and have some fun. So
you're all for creators expressing themselves.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, I love it. I love it.
I love that there's a lot of passion at Image Comics.
Yeah.
And taking a turn from Skybound, Ghost Machine and the Unnamed War, like Jeff, looks like he assembled a team and came in hot with this idea.
No, it's awesome, and I like that. In some respects, I really do like that everybody just came in and said, well, I want to do whatever the hell I want to do, and what I want to do isn't superheroes, and I'm going to do The Walking Dead, or I'm going to do various other things, and they're all over the map as to different things they want to do. And then there's a few guys who are like, I still want to do superhero stuff. I kind of do miss the active shared universe that there used to be, but occasionally something like that will happen where somebody will call me up and say, hey, I want to use Dragon in whatever. It's like, go do it.
I had a lot of fun with the team up covers. Also, I've had a lot of fun revisiting Invincible and just Dragon is there at the funeral. Dragon is there in the Invincible War. Dragon is there fighting for his life many times.
And then, and then Invincible showed up in Savage Dragon from time to time when I wanted to play around with some stuff. At one point, I had kind of the idea of there being let's do an Image team, and then that never came about really. But for just a couple of stories I had, Spawn Dragon, Shadowhawk, Invincible, Witchblade. We're all kind of let's have these characters hang out a little bit. So,
I thought that was a great time. That was a great time.
Well, I'm all for it.
I was gonna say, am I jumping onto my next question, Rich?
Go for it. Go for it.
I feel like there have been so many. I'm gonna go back to Savage Dragon for a minute because this is my question from rereading some stuff today. So Mighty Man is obviously a nod to Captain Marvel Adventures, right? And through my eyes. So are there other Savage Dragon characters or storylines that like were birthed from that Fawcett era of comics that you really enjoyed or that you were influenced by?
I mean, kind of obviously the Walter the Tiger is kind of a talkie tawny thing.
I love
but he was introduced in an issue where I was doing an homage to different comic strips. So he kind of came about from doing a Calvin and Hobbes riff where I instead of him being a real animated tiger in Calvin's mind and a stuffed tiger in reality, I kind of went an opposite way of her going, oh, she sees him as kind of this playful stuffed tiger, but in reality, he's a tiger.
Yes.
So, her mom comes in and sees that she's wrestling with a tiger and she's pretty freaked out about the whole thing.
I just love in this issue. She has him all dressed up. He's like, no, he won't hurt nobody. And I'm like, girl, okay.
Yeah. So, eventually I was like, all right, I'll just do some stuff with him. Whether or not, I don't know where I'm going with that at all. I have a lot of things in my book where I don't necessarily know where I'm going. I just kind of have these characters as wild card characters so that because when you plan out everything, you can just be like, all right, this is boring. I'm just going through the paces of I know I need to get here. Here we go. A to B to B to C to blah, 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 blah. So I like to have there be a certain amount of stuff where this character is crazy and they can do anything and this could go any number of directions. Because then you've got, all right, well, I've got my A plot where I'm going from here to here, but then I've got all this chaos all around it that's going any direction. And that just makes it more enjoyable as a creator to just have that go on.
I love that you breathe in a life of its own when you do that, right?
Yeah. And it makes it more exciting, I think, for everybody involved, for the readers and for everybody to just go, oh, holy crap, you're all over the place. So, yes, I am.
Yeah. Biggie Shack in the chat, he mentioned something earlier, and I think I lost sight of it. He appreciates that you are really a fan of classic comic art. But he was asking if you were influenced at all or really enjoyed. I gotta find it. I'm trying so hard to find it.
All right, you find that, because we were just talking about plotting, Eric, and when you're plotting out Savage Dragon, how far ahead do you map things out? And is there a final destination you're steering toward, or do you see Dragon's World continuing to evolve as long as you're telling comics?
Both. Because there are milestones where I go, okay, I'm building up to something that happens in 300. And then from that point on, I do have other things. So I kind of will go, there's this extended storyline that goes on for years and years and years and years, and I want to hit this point and this point and this point, but all along the way there'll be any number of things where I can just go off in this direction or that direction. So it's a little of real direction, and there's a bunch of like, who the hell knows? This could go anywhere. So
Okay.
you know, there's a bunch of rakes to step on the way to the room in the back or whatever.
All right. Very nice. Thank you.
So Biggie had mentioned that in your 250th issue, 100 pager, I hope I'm getting this right, you had an ad in the comic and it reminded him of Lou Fine's Fantastic Three. And he had mentioned before if you were a fan of Lou Fine's. And of course, I can't find the other comment, and I am not 100% sure who Lou Fine's is. So I'm hoping
Lou Fine's an old guy from the Golden Age who's predominantly known for his covers because his covers were really great. His storytelling in his regular comic stuff was a little weird and jerky. It seemed somewhat homoerotic in the and
must be.
Same thing with Mac Raboy, who did Captain Marvel Jr. His stuff, it definitely like, wow, you're spending a lot more time on that boy's buns than most people would be, you know. But there was definitely like, they loved the human form and were just rendering the shit out of you know, everybody. But a lot of times, some of those guys, their storytelling chops were very weird and jerky, and they were trying all sorts of stuff because these guys are figuring out how to make comics. And a lot of times their experiments were unsuccessful to my eye, and that you would have characters that were bursting out of panels, but then their hands would be interfering with things that were in other panels. So it's like, well, that doesn't really work very well. Sometimes your eye wasn't going where it ought to. Sometimes the next panel, it really wasn't clear as to where you're supposed to go yet. Sometimes they would be putting arrows all over the place or little numbers in every panel, so you know which one you're supposed to go to. And I think, you know, there's a reason that Kirby and Ditko and the early Marvel stuff, that they just were like, you know what, we're going to do 6-panel grids and we're going to make this super easy so you know where to go. But yeah, Lou Fine could compose one hell of a cover, and did the covers for just numerous books back in the Golden Age. I don't know where in the world he ended up at, but hell of an artist.
That's impressive. Anyhow, I am very happy that you were able to get that. And then go for it, Rich.
All right. So after I just put this stuff all down, I apologize.
All right.
I've lost my last question. Cliff, why don't you jump in with one of the others?
You lost your last question. All right. So, of my many, many other questions, is there something while you were working at Marvel or DC at some point that you really wish you had gotten to take a crack at and you didn't get a chance to?
Oh, everything.
Oh.
Everything. I love that answer.
I mean, it's like I kind of am. Yeah, I mean, every book, it's like, oh man, I'd love to do a run on Wonder Woman, or oh yeah, I'd love to do a run on you know, Captain Marvel, or kind of anything. All those books, love them. You know, oh, how come I never get to do a run on Captain America or Thor or all this stuff. I would love to do that, but it's like, there's only so many hours in a day, and you can't do everything, and sometimes you gotta pick your battles, and there's kind of this impression that fans have that that these companies would just kick whoever's been faithfully doing these books off to make way for me. It's like I could do right now if they said, "Hey, would you like to do a run on this book or that?" I'd give it a shot. Whatever, depending on what it is. I could have some fun doing it, but they're not. It's not like these guys are disloyal to the guys who've been regularly putting out these books forever. And if I'm sitting going, "Oh, I really want to do Batman. Can you kick Matt Fraction off of Batman?" They're not going to be, go fuck yourself. What are you, crazy? That's not the way we work. But it's like, at the time I really wanted to do a run on the Hulk, but I would have loved to have done the Fantastic Four. I would have loved to have been given carte blanche to do Captain Marvel, or Fawcett Captain Marvel, that is. I could have seen doing a run on Wonder Woman. And a lot of these books, it was just, that I would look at them and go, Wonder Woman's Rogues Gallery is sad. Let me just do this book for a year and leave you guys with 14 cool villains that other people could play with for the rest of forever, because nobody's adding anything of consequence to these characters' rogues galleries,
Man, some people are trying, but they are dropping, and not even rogues galleries, just new characters. Some people are dropping duds. Some people are dropping gold, but no one will do anything with it. It's very weird.
It's tough because, it's a lot easier for a retailer to sell something familiar than it is to sell something new.
Yeah, but
there needs to be more guys who do like what Rob did on X-Force, or what who the other guys who really did that. Frank Miller on Daredevil brought in Elektra, introduced Elektra, took some characters and added to them and made something cool, but he kept drumming that Elektra thing over and over and over again, to the point where, Elektra's something, and the Hand becomes something, and suddenly everybody wants to be on that thing. Walt with Beta Ray Bill, and kind of doing, we're going to do stories where he shows up again and again, and sort of takes something that didn't exist and made it into something, and then started adding new villains, or dusting off old ones and reimagining them in some way to make them cooler. That's what they need, is just more guys who are coming in there going, "Look, you've got some cool toys here, but let's make more cool stuff."
So adjacent to other people playing with your toys, Biggie Shack would like to know if you had anyone else do art on Savage Dragon, which we know is true because there was that weird crossover month at Image where you all did each other's books.
Yeah. I wish that I would have just done issue number X at that point, rather than just have it be one on the regular series. But I've had guys do backup stories in Savage Dragon, and I've had a bunch of pretty cool guys doing that. But I don't want there to be a fill-in on the regular book.
I had another fan question. That was, when you look at Todd, and he's had people, most recently Gail Simone, work with She Spawn, and I forgot there was other people named. But are you interested, or would you ever be interested in anybody taking a crack at some of your characters in a mini series or an offshoot series.
Yeah, I could see doing that at some point. It's just finding the time and the wherewithal to do something like that. I mean, the problem with some of these offshoot books is that people kind of order them like in quantities that don't make the math work, and that's where it becomes a problem. When I'm doing Savage Dragon on my own, I take whatever comes. But if I'm doing a book with somebody else, and I'm saying to Gail Simone, hey, you're coming off of doing a successful book elsewhere, I need to give you a page rate in order for you to do this thing, and that I need to pay the artist in order to draw this thing. You quickly can look at all those numbers and go, I've got 5-6 different creators that I need to be paying page rates to. This book has to sell this amount of copies in order for that math to work. I don't think I can count on that being the case.
I don't know. I feel like based on issue 280, if you did a spin-off right now based on this, I think that book would take off really quick. And you could do the variant covers with and without the extra webbing, and the extra webbing variants could actually be called the Virgin cover, and we could all have a good laugh about that, and you could laugh that money to the bank.
You think that
something I love. Something I may be right or wrong about this. I feel like I'm a little more right than I am wrong. Something I do love about Image that I want to say is I've noticed when you guys have something special that you are excited about, and you put out something new, like the Wolfman issue that just came out. There was a gorgeous foil cover with the claw mark cut out, amazing, and the book was $5.99, right? And Transformers went to 10th printing, and you did gold foil. And Void Rivals 10th printing, you did gold foil. And I just feel like that's really beautiful, and I feel rewarded as one of the loyal readers when that happens. And then I give side eye to the big two, because they will happily go into 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th printings. And you know what? They could give us a foil logo and not just make it orange. I'm looking at you, Absolute Batman. Just my thoughts I really want to share with you.
Well, the thing is that does cut into people's bottom line. And when you've got shareholders and you've got a whole bunch of folks and they're not necessarily fans, they gotta have to answer to all these other people. And it's like, oh, you're spending a bunch on this foil cover, and how much does that cost per copy? And does this math even work to do this?
I feel like, yes, for Absolute Batman. I feel like they could have justified that.
But it's like when I do my anniversary issues, I'm doing square bound because I think they hold up better. 100-page issue, and
yes.
Then at some of the other companies, they're like, oh, it's a 100-page issue. We're just going to put a couple of staples in the spine and call it beautiful. That's like, those covers are going to come off in.
Well, that's why they make us buy. That's why they make us buy B, C, and D covers that have the hardbound, so they can get an extra buck out of us, and be like, oh, look how pretty the variants are. You want them.
There you go.
I'm making a little bit of fun, even though I know Amazing Spider-Man 1000 is coming out, and I'm going out of my way to get your cover because yours is a 1 in 25, mister.
That's a tough one, And it's like when they asked me to do it, they didn't say, oh, by the way, this is going to be 1 in 25. Because I'm sitting there going, well, wait a minute, how am I going to get copies of this thing? Because on my own book, I'll just print up a ton more for me. But when it's a Marvel book, I can't do that.
So this is a fun question. If we snap our fingers and Savage Dragon becomes a live-action movie, who do you want to play Dragon? I'm going to assume the original Dragon.
Yeah. Who the hell would I play Dragon at this point? I don't know because time keeps changing and actors keep moving around, and I would find. I mean, my answer was Bruce Willis forever, but it's like, well, that's no longer an option.
Yeah.
So
Well, shape wise, the actor that plays Reacher right now.
Yes, he
I
was
would-
my number one
here's the
choice,
thing.
Alan Richson.
Here's
Yes.
the thing. I would go. I want an actor who's 5'10". I don't want a big, tall, monstrous guy. I want
Okay.
somebody who's got a good face, a good dragon face. Find me somebody face as close to the comics as we can, and then just CGI the shit out of them, and just go, look, we're gonna put football shoulder pads on you, and we're gonna put oven mitts on your hands, and we're just gonna come in there and CGI, and your head's gonna be your head. We're gonna color it green. We're gonna put a fin on there, but the rest of it is we're just gonna make this into something rather than try to find some muscle guy who's not going to he's not going to have the presence of dragon to begin with. Because I want somebody who you go, those shoulders are so impossibly big. There's just no way. There isn't a human alive whose fist is balled up and is the size of their head.
You are describing. So what you're describing. What you're describing is Frank Grillo in a bunch of prosthetics. That is what you're describing.
I don't know. I don't watch every movie and know every actor.
Oh, so Frank Grillo has been in the Marvel movies. He was like a Hydra operative in
Crossbones.
Right, he was Crossbones, but he is also currently in the DC films as Rick Flag Sr.
All right. Whatever.
Okay, but anyhow, he is 5'10", and I feel like because he's that guy, he can do the things that you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, I just would want a decent actor to do it, and it's like I don't know, man.
Ooh, Carl Urban is 5'10". That's exciting.
Yeah, but I want him to, we'll see. I don't know. It's always going to be somebody. It's always going to there's actors who come in and out of style and whatever, and by the time anything could possibly be done, you'd be going, well, wait a minute, how old's Dragon now, or when are we going to set this?
Listen, you come to me, and I will have an active list of everyone between the ages of 28 and 32 who's 5'10". I will keep that for you. I'll be ready.
Well, are we going to set Dragon in 1992? Is the next question. Are we just going to start? Let's just start it then. Set it then.
Or do you want to? Or do you want that to be the backstory? Like the first 20 minutes of the movie is just a little snippet of that, right?
We could do that, and then it's like, and here's modern times, and it's his grandchildren running around. Something. It's like, holy crap, what happened to that dude? I thought we were all about that one guy. And it's like, oh no, that guy's.
Why not? That would make a more fun movie.
It's much wider that way.
Jot all this down, sir. Jot it all down. And also,
it could be like all over the place and be like, okay, here's the Malcolm years, here's the Savage years, and here's the stuff that comes after that. Because it's like, me and Malcolm's 30 now, or almost 30. So it's like, okay, how long are you going to have Malcolm be the guy? And then eventually his kids are going to be old enough that it seems like, well, they could be going into some
we need it. So what you're saying is we need a series. We need seasons.
Well, I mean, the lovely thing about Dragon is that it does lend itself to that kind of sequential storytelling. Whereas the Marvel stuff, you go, well, in the comics, none of these characters get any older. Mm-hmm. So that becomes an issue because actors do get older. Whereas in Savage Dragon, you go, well, all these characters keep aging. So we could actually do stories where we're just, 3 years behind the time and just going, okay, what went on in that book? All right, let's do that now. While in the regular comic, I'm just setting up for the next one. You know?
Absolutely. And that's how you've done it over the last 25, 30 years with the Savage Dragon. You've just kept that
Yeah,
timeline being real, which you informed me when I was at Terrificon 2 years ago. We talked about that.
yeah, and it's like that's it. 34 years have gone by in the book because it's been going on for 34 years. You know,
Hmm.
it's like, hey, this first issue came out in July 1992, and it's like,
So
okay,
Dragon's in his 50s now?
Dragon is well, Malcolm is the main guy. Dragon's been dead, so
Okay.
he was killed off in 250. So I recently introduced Paul Dragon, who's the dragon from the graphic fantasy comic I did as a kid. So I'm like, I'll just reach into another universe and pull this guy in. But he's a little more kind of even tempered. He's got kind of a different personality than old school Dragon had. But it's like, well, old school Dragon's dead, so he can't deal with him anymore. But I'll
Mhm.
bring in Paul Dragon, and he can just be a presence for a while until we blow up everybody.
And then so how what is the age of his son right now? That is the
So
current Dragon.
Malcolm is will be 30 this year. He'll turn
Okay.
30 in October. Um, Paul Dragon, when we see him, is 63.
Mhm.
So he's kind of, and then Maxine is 32, I think. She's almost 32, I think.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I just constantly like, well,
How are her
how old are the kids?
extracurricular activities? How are her extracurricular activities going to
Well,
affect Malcolm going forward?
well, I don't know how much I want to spoil things for everybody. Is the thing,
Hmm.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean,
Because
one of the kids said she was busy with work, and I was like, "Is this what she's doing to get by while he's been away?" I'm like, did she just set up the OnlyFans and be like, "Look, someone's got to take care of this household and all these damn kids"? You don't have to give it away. I'm just making stuff up. But one of the kids
well,
said, "Mom's at work" or "Mommy's working," and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Oh." So my mind immediately went into,
yeah,
all of
yeah,
that. Also, I love how unintentionally or not that the fluids that you used in the uncensored version really, really bring to life some Spidey web action. Like, because it's like circular webbing on the
yeah,
bed, on the wall.
yeah. No,
You know,
I had done another. I'd done a panel like that earlier on in the book, and it was like, oh, this is kind of a funny idea of it just kind of coming out in waves. It's like, okay.
oh, it's happening. And one of my friends was like, did he have to be so much fluid? I was like, there's two versions. You could get the non-fluid version. And he's like, nah. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
No,
Eric, what's exciting you right now outside of the Image universe? Whether that's comics or just stuff you personally geeking out over these days? Did you like Supergirl or X-Men '97?
I do pretty much keep up on the Marvel and DC movies when those come out. So I did go and see Supergirl and enjoyed it. When Spider-Man is in theaters, I will go see that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't, and some of them I will wait until they're online and watch them on whatever they're on. But usually I'll see a Star Wars movie in theaters and whatever. Mostly, I got so many back issues and so much comics just around me that I find myself revisiting kind of some of that stuff. And then,
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Well, also, you're online all the time, and so it's like I just got turned on to a kid named Adam Archer, whose work I was not familiar with at all, and he had just did a drawing that he had for sale of Dragon, and somehow I got linked to that, and so I was like, oh, this guy's stuff looks awesome, and so I went to his site. And I bought that drawing that he had done of Dragon and Rita Metermaid. And so I was like, oh, this is cool. Let me buy this. And it was like, oh, he's got a couple other drawings I like too. I'll buy those. And so he ended up sending me that. And then he did a cool drawing of Malcolm and Maxine. And it was like, oh, can I use this as a cover? And so he was like, all right. So I'm having him do an alternate cover. And then, it's like I ended up buying a bunch of his books that he had done. And he'd sent me some other stuff that he'd done. And it's like, I get invigorated by that, just seeing somebody new who's got a different approach that I haven't seen before, and even in just new regular comics that are coming out, I'll see stuff that'll be like, I've never seen somebody approach a page like this. Let me see if I can do something like that. Or even going to any kind of store, seeing any kind of poster, I've constantly got my phone with me. So if I'm out walking around and somebody's got a cool poster for some upcoming event, I'll take a picture of that. If I'm walking on Haight Street and see a bunch of racy costumes in the window, it's like, this could be taking place in Savage Dragon. I can use this. Yeah, I mean, some of the clothes that I've had Maxine wear are straight off of Haight Street and from store windows. And it's just keeping your eyes open and bringing in everything you can from any sources that you happen to run across, and I'll get sketchbooks by Robert Crumb, and there'll be stuff in there that's like, I've never seen this before. That gives me an idea to do this, or any number of guys, because I'll get everything. Chris Ware does something, it comes home with me. If there's a new Walton Skizik's book, I'll get that too. It's like I like old comic strips quite a bit, so a bunch of that, and some of that's just, here's some inking technique that Alex Raymond was screwing around with back in 1950. Let me see what I can do, if I can do something like that.
I love that. Even at the amount of years you have in the industry, you still find yourself learning and growing.
You want to, because the alternative is stagnation, and that's kind of creative death of some sort. And it's like, you want to be able to have your work be somewhat organic. It's like, this is something that is constantly growing. And some of that is just, I'm taking in new influences as things go along. And some of it's going to be successful, and some of it's going to be horrific. And you could be like, hey, don't try that anymore. And it's like, I'm constantly trying to learn new effects and new tricks and stuff like that.
That's wonderful. I love it.
All right. Should we? I was gonna say, I know your dinner bell is gonna be ringing.
We still got some time. Don't worry about it.
All right. Can we do some rapid fire questions?
Sure.
All right. Who's your favorite Spider-Man villain?
Probably Dr. Octopus. Just because I like the possibilities and things that can be done with those tentacles. There's just a lot that you can play with doing that.
Ooh. Do you have a favorite issue of Savage Dragon?
No.
Okay.
I
Is there?
don't. I mean, there's different ones along the way where I'll go. I tried an experiment here, and this one's interesting because it's such a weird experiment. But I don't go, well, this was the best issue ever.
How about a favorite story arc?
Not even. It's just so all over the story arc that's 1 through 300 is pretty awesome. It's like there's a lot to it, and I like just that I can just kind of take something and then build on that and build on that and build on that at the same time going, let me make it so that if you are a new reader and you're coming at this today, that you're not sitting there going, I don't know what the hell's going on. What's going on with this? It should be that every issue is completely accessible. I kind of treat it like in the real world, you would never think, oh, I don't want to meet that guy. I don't want him to become my friend because there's too much backstory, So I approach it like that. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff there, but it doesn't matter until it matters. And when it does matter, those characters will inform you, just as a friend would inform you of going, let's cross the street. I don't want to run into that guy. You go, why not? And you go, oh, let me tell you a story about when I dealt with that son of a bitch. And at that point, you get the backstory on why they have a problem with somebody. But until that time, you don't get any of that. And I'm kind of trying to do comics in that way. Is when it's important that you know why this is there, we'll tell you about it. When it's not important, it doesn't really matter. And it's just like, I know some writers are like, I got to make sure that I mention everybody by name in every issue. And it's like, at some point, you just need to know that Malcolm has a bunch of kids. You don't need to know every single one of their individual names every issue, because at some point it doesn't matter.
From Matt in the chat, did you ever imagine when you started Savage Dragon that it would still be going after all these years?
No, but I had hoped that it would. And
like that.
And other people have asked, when you started, did you have it plotted out till issue 300? And I go, no, because that would be insane.
Right?
Right? I mean, who sits down and goes, all right, I'm going to plot out everything, including a crossover with Hellboy, who doesn't exist yet. Right. Because it's like, you don't know what's going to come along. You're going to want to incorporate into your work along the way. But in terms of the major pieces of stuff is, I started off with my graphic fantasy stories that I did as a kid. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I want to incorporate these stories that I came up with as a kid at some point. So I'm going to start someplace else, because I don't want to start the same place as a kid, because those stories didn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. They're from a fifth grader's point of view. He didn't know what the hell was going on in the world or how anything worked. But so I'm gonna go start someplace else and get to this milestone of Dragon's a single dad. He's got a daughter named Angel. He just quit being the leader of a government super team, and he keeps being attacked by random people who are still pissed off at him. So that was my graphic fantasy story. So I was like, all right, this is the place where I want to go. Where can I start that would eventually lead to that? And I had a friend who was a police officer. So I thought, well, if he's a police officer in the start, that could eventually build to him getting some government gig and then becoming the head of a government super team. And then eventually he could not be part of that. So let me start there and then build in all these pieces, eventually introduce uh, Angel and her mom and have those characters, come in and out of the book or whatever. But I got there with issue 63 and issue 65, both kind of retold my graphic fantasy stories. And then it was, okay, I can go anywhere from here. And then, and then other stuff comes up where I'll get a wild hair if somebody had just written in a letter going, oh, it sucks that Marvel keeps doing these alternate reality books, and then they introduce this cool, Age of Apocalypse world, and then they'll go right back to doing the regular Marvel universe, and they never continue on doing this crazy world thing. And so I thought, well, what if I did that and extend it? But instead of going back to the regular world, I'll just go on with this new world, and I'll destroy my old world. So it's like
that was 75 and 76, right?
Yeah, 75 and 76. And then the world blew up in 102. The old world blew up, and we're done with the old Image universe, and off we go.
Off to the new. Love it.
Yeah, but it's like I can do whatever the hell I want to. So if this works, that's fun, and if it doesn't work, that's okay too. And eventually, I'll have, as it went, then you sort of get the major. Okay, well, I want Dragon to get older, like I get older, and like everybody I know gets older. So let's try this out and see if we can do a comic that's set in the real world where characters age, and find out, well, what are the pitfalls of doing comics that way? Well, what works and what doesn't work? And you find out really quickly that kids grow up quick, and that cute little speech impediment that you like when you have your little kid, well, that speech impediment really only lasted for a couple months, and then they didn't have it anymore. But in a comic book, that's an issue or two, and then they don't have it anymore. And it just seems like, well, that didn't seem like that stuck around very long at all. Whereas, and a lot of those things are like that, where you go, well, if it's set in real time, how come a villain would plan something for several months before he executes something? Usually, I'm gonna make a plan and I'm gonna do it, and it's pretty quick. But you can't do that and have a story paced out in a nice way. So it's complicated. It gets complicated. This whole, I try to play with it as best I can, but there are times where I'll have 3 or 4 issues in a row where one issue feeds directly into the next. And then later on down the road, it's like, I got to cover 6 months in this issue. Let's just jump ahead. So,
wow, that's incredible. Eric, it's really interesting. Cliff and I have been interviewing creators for quite a few years now. And I really feel like I've gotten a look into your creator brain a little bit tonight that I haven't quite gotten from other creators. So the way you express it is just beautiful. So thank you so much for that.
Also, I love having gotten into your collection tonight. That was exciting for me.
Yeah, I mean, my house burned down in 91. All my dad's comics were destroyed. But since then, I've been like, all right, let me get a bunch of Captain Marvel Adventures was something that he really loved. So I got as many of those as I could get my hands on. He liked all the EC stuff, so I got a bunch of the EC, those big black and white Russ Cochran things. So I got a bunch of those. And then I just, when I was doing this next issue project book, I don't even know anything about that, but I started collecting a bunch of just random public domain comics, just so I can go, okay, well, what's Fantastic Comics all about? Let me get a number of issues of that, so I know who all those characters are, so I can make the next issue of Fantastic Comics. got some issues. And so I'm all over the place, and some of them are just, let me try stuff out. And a lot of those books are absolutely terrible. And then there's other stuff that you read and you go, oh my God, this was amazing.
And then there's that fourth collected edition of Savage Dragon that will be so rewarding when it's done for our international friends.
Well, that's the thing, is that people at this point, they're going to be like, well, this issue must be amazing. And it's like, I'm sorry, I've just been trying to get my book caught up, and it's been running late. So, I'm sorry, everybody. I wish I was more capable of doing absolutely everything, but I am.
Listen. We're all.
I think you're pretty damn impressive. I think you're giving yourself too much pressure.
It's
What
not
is
easy.
this? The word count for Marcel Proust in Search of Lost Time is 1,267,069 words. Can you estimate the word count on Savage Dragon?
No.
No.
Well, is a picture worth 1,000 words?
I'm sure it is. I'm sure. My God, between issues 75, 76, 225,
Yeah,
226, those are worth 1 billion words.
I mean, there's a lot to it, certainly, when you start taking it all in. But, when you're a prose writer, you have to describe somebody's physical appearance and the emotions that are crossing their face. And when you actually go, okay, well, let me just take this book and eliminate all that stuff and just see how much dialogue there is. I've written as much dialogue as in some of those weighty tomes, like you say. But I got to draw the pictures too. So there's some give and take there.
Absolutely.
So I guess we'll call this the closing question. Is there one story you have left after all these years that you're saving for when the time is right?
For what? Savage Dragon or
Savage Dragon? Yeah, like you're like, ooh, I could really do this when I feel the time comes.
I mean, there's stuff that I'm building towards still. So yes. At the same time, you don't want to put everything off until later, because you don't know that there's going to be a later for sure.
Sure.
So
please call me. Please call me for Dark Dragons on Infinite Earths. I want to be there.
Well, I'm. Yeah. I want it to be. I want it to be a fun, cool book till the bitter end. So, I'm going to do the best I can, and a lot of it is just I need to keep myself entertained. So, but I'm looking down the road and going, at some point, hey, 7 years from now, Superman's going to be in the public domain. And 8 years from now,
he's going to be leaping. He's going to be leaping over a tall building and into the backyard of Malcolm Dragon.
And it's like all those stuff, all those things. It's like let me start bringing some of those characters into that. I'm looking forward to that. But it's I can't look.
I am looking forward to that. I think it'll be fantastic if all of a sudden the Daily Star is just there. Like, the Daily Star has always been here. I'm sorry, I want to point out in the chat, multiple people have been thanking you for your years of work, including Rob here from Graphic Fantasy #1 from 1983 to today. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything you've given us. We've got a few people in the chat sharing those thoughts. So I want you to know everyone who's tuned in tonight live has just been so appreciative of what you've given us in your storytelling, and also the generosity of your time this evening.
And Eric, where I know you're pretty active on socials, but for those that don't know, where can people follow you?
I am on Threads. I'm on, what are the other ones? I don't remember.
Is there an
you're on
Instagram?
Facebook and Instagram.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram in such the barest possible way that I always
Your
forget
Instagram
to
keeps your threads
there.
alive where you're active.
Yeah, it's like I'm probably what's the other one? I stopped doing Twitter some time ago. What are the big three here?
I think that's about it. I think you got it. Unless you're on TikTok as well.
No, I'm on. God, I'm not on TikTok. I don't know. I don't know what the hell I'm on.
That's enough places for people to follow you.
I mean, honestly, Threads is a great place to follow you. I'm digging it.
And Eric, can we just trouble you for one more thing? Can you just record a quick little bumper for us? Be like, hey, I'm Eric, and you're on Behind the Panels, or however you want to play with it.
Oh no, we lost your microphone.
We lost his mic.
He's working on it.
Oh boy.
See,
Well, if you can hear us, Eric, maybe you can send that to me in the chat. You can send me a private, quick video, since we just lost your microphone.
Oh,
what a bummer.
Oh, you reached right for that star, and then whoosh.
Well, thank you so much, sir. We wish you could still communicate with us. You're amazing. You're amazing.
It has been an absolute pleasure seeing you here tonight. And thank you so much. Hopefully we'll be seeing you soon. One of the many conventions I'm going to this year that, I wasn't going to anything. I was going to just Terrificon. I'm being dragged to Baltimore, to New York Comic Con. I'm not being dragged to FlameCon. But again, thank you so much for spending this evening with us. You're free to go back to dinner. Everyone in the chat, you've all been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody for your contributing questions. And on behalf of myself and Velvet Joker, one over here, who you should be following on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. As usual, everybody, read your comics, and we love you.